YouTube Buzz going. The Goat House is back. We are less than a week away from the 2023 NFL Draft, and the beautiful thing about NFL drafts are they're always surprising. But for some reason this year, something about this class, the feeling that I get, a lot of you probably agree with me. This one might be a little, some of the picks might be a little more surprising this year. And in this video, we're going to try to identify the surprises that could happen in the first round. Trying to find that Cole Strange pick. Remember that from last year was super shocking. So I split these prospects up into tiers that possibly can go in round one that would surprise people. But the first couple tiers, maybe not super surprising. But as we go on, more and more surprising, but also could happen. So really excited about this. We have loads of NFL draft content on the channel. More to come. We live during day one of the NFL draft right here. So make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Very important. Follow us on Twitter. Live analysis on each pick from day 2 through 3. Links pinned in the comments for that. Anything else on your screen that's interesting to you? Our sponsors, links pinned in the comments for all that. Let's get into it. So the first tier. So these are prospects that I could see going in the first round. But if they go in the first round, they will surprise some people. So that's not Cole Strange from last year. It's not Cole Strange level yet. We'll get to that. We've got different tiers here in this video. But this would surprise some people. So a couple Tennessee guys right off the bat. Hendon Hooker. I think most people are kind of thinking like, yeah, he could go first round. There are some people out there that are just insisting that he won't go in the first round. You know, coming off the injury, 24 years old. He's just not going to go in the first round. There's some people out there like that. I think we could take it a step further, and there even could be, a more of a surprise. Does he go in the middle of the first round? Does a surprise team take him? Not that I'm saying it would happen, but could somebody take him as early as 11, 12, 16? Are the teams that are picking there around that range? Probably not, but that would kind of surprise people. And then Jalen Hyatt, who I actually have a first-round grade on. I think he's more than what people are giving credit for him on. People just think he's kind of just a speedster, one route type of guy. Of course, he can add more to his route tree, but he actually could block. He's solid after the catch, tougher than, his size might say, so a little bit more to his game there. But I think, teams, speed kills in today's NFL. So teams like, hey, we might be able to develop him, get more out of him, and he's already has that special speed, so let's take him. So he possibly can go late one. Wouldn't surprise everyone because there's a lot of people. There's people like me that really like him, but the people that don't like him are pretty damn low on him, and it'll be a little bit of a surprise. But could he go in the Bills, the Chiefs, around that range in the end of the first round? Vikings, maybe as early as that, maybe. Darnell Washington, it would surprise a little bit of people here. Really good blocking tight end, freaky dude. Could he get better? In terms of receiver, he's a good contested catcher, but yeah, could he sneak in a late first round? I think it's possible. Would surprise some people. The couple of the tackles, Anton Harrison and DeJuan Jones, maybe some of you out there are expecting them to go first, maybe something second, but could surprise some if they sneak in to the end of round one. I think one of those guys is bound to go. I'm starting to think DeJuan Jones more of a second round guy. And then Keion White, who got some hype around the combine out of nowhere. And then kind of, not the hype kind of went away. People not talking about him as much. Didn't get to see him work out the combine. And his tape overall isn't that great, but you can see the flashes for Keion White. And, just a rare guy, like powerful, big, long, pretty athletic. And he was invited to the draft, so he could go in the first round, could even go in the middle of the first round and surprise people. That's a possibility. Will McDonald's another one. I have a first-round grade on him. He's not mocked there a whole lot, but I think people know that he's talented, so it's not going to floor people if he goes, kind of like Keion White, if he goes in the first round, but I think it would surprise some people. Like he could possibly go over other edge rushers that people think are just locks to be in the first round. I think it's a possibility. Drew Sanders, which I think most of us have a second-round grade on him, but teams looking for a linebacker and one with upside here. Remember, was only playing the position for a year, so still learning it, and has the blitzing and pass rush part to his game. So if a team just needs a linebacker, there's a shortage on him in the draft, and they specifically like his pass rush / blitz ability, they might just take him at the end of the first round. I definitely could see that, and would, you don't see him in the mocks too much in the first, so I could see it surprising some people. Cam Smith, I'd feel a little more comfortable with him in the second, but could go late first there. Physical man, corner, experience in the slot as well. And then Keely Ringo, which, a few months ago, he wouldn't be a surprise whatsoever, but people kind of moved him down their boards, not being talked about in the first much at all. I think it would surprise some people, but most people would be like, yeah, at one point he was kind of considered a first round guy. So, okay, I guess it's not that surprising. So now we kind of get into the fun part here with these next 3 tiers. But round 1 picks that would surprise a lot of people, in my opinion. And I think they could possibly go, like, watch out for these guys to possibly go in the first, and it would surprise a lot of people. Jonathan Mingo, which I've been hyping up for a bit, I still think more likely to go in the second round, but could sneak in the end of the first round. I mean, big, athletic, good route runner, could block, could line up in line. We saw him line up almost like a tight end, but in the slot and outside as well. Just the only thing he's lacking, not a whole lot of production, so some team could kind of fall in love with a guy like that, and he could go towards the end of the first round, and I think it would surprise some people. I think, mainly with who he's going ahead of. I think there's people out there that consider this receiver, that receiver, this receiver better than Mingo, and I'd say not so fast. Based on what the media is pushing out there, they're pushing the wrong guy, somewhat pushing the wrong guys out there, so teams could kind of see when people like us that think Mingo is very solid and he could go in the late first. Josh Downs, another one not being talked about a whole lot. People kind of just view him as a second round guy, but he's got big playability. He can dominate the slot. He's a good contested catcher, especially for his size. He's really the only thing he doesn't have going for him is his size. So people can just be in awe about the tape and take him in the first round, and that was definitely surprised a lot of people. Steve Avila, which I'm starting to think definitely could happen, but nobody, maybe could he be right before the draft put himself in that first tier that we talked about? Wouldn't surprise as many people, but right now, I think it's a possibility that he goes in the first round. And if I mock him there, those fans aren't too thrilled. So, but yeah, as being talked about as a second round guy, you rarely see him in the mocks in the first round, but a guard, he doesn't have the athleticism that today's offensive linemen have too. So people are like, yeah, he's just better off taking a second round. And I kind of agree with that, but I'd watch out for him sneaking into round 1. Adi Boraway, the defensive line from Northwestern, can play edge or D tackle. Yeah, he's super freaky athletic, but kind of a tweener player. Probably got to move him inside. It's kind of a boomer bust guy. It is extremely risky to have him in the first round. That's why we don't see him in the first a whole lot. But because of the upside, because of the freaky athleticism, he could sneak up there and go in the first round. Mazi Smith, kind of a big name guy, but not being mocked a whole lot in the first. He's kind of a nose tackle. How early do you take a guy like that that's a run stopper? And then on top of being a good run stopper, he's a guy that doesn't really dominate style, like doesn't get in the backfield and disrupt things, cause a ruckus, So first, how early do you take a nose tackle? And of course, he can play D tackle as well. Got upside there. But then a guy that just doesn't completely change the game completely, So it would be a surprise if he went in the first round, even though he's kind of a bigger name. B.J. Ojulari, which actually my most recent mock I had in the first round. I love his pass rushing skills, the moves that he has, the length, the athleticism, he can rush from different spots. He does struggle to get off blocks, and that when you see that on tape, it's like, damn, you don't like that, because it's like, he really struggles to get off blocks sometimes, so teams might be like, nah, we're not going to take that guy in the first, even though we love the pass rush moves and the upside. But, and you don't see him mocked in the first, and that's probably why. But if he goes, it would surprise quite a bit of people, but you got a pretty solid pass rusher here. And, again, he can go ahead of some other pass rushers that you think maybe are locks in the first round. Isaiah Foskey, another one. Pretty balanced pass rusher across the board, like good production, good length, good power, good athleticism. I think we said good production. Why maybe he could sneak up a little higher. You wish there was more pass rush moves, but a little bit more flexibility with him. But, I think that one would surprise people, but I could see it. Same with Felix and Udike Uzama, pretty good 4.3 end from Kansas State. The only thing with him, he's kind of disappeared against the better competition that he played and kind of went off against the weaker ones. But, I think he's still learning the position, still getting going. So somebody that just needs a 4.3 end and they just feel a little bit better about him than over some of the other guys on fitting their scheme could sneak in the end of round 1. But I think people are kind of, I've already made up their mind that, these certain pass rushers are going to go in the first, and these guys right here will go in the second. Trenton Simpson was probably once talked about as a first-round linebacker, kind of got pushed back a little bit, and he's a little tricky because he's still raw at the position. He still hesitates a little bit. The instincts definitely aren't there. But before this year, he kind of was more of a slot guy that also could play at linebacker. So they kind of make sense that he's a little raw, and he's a freak athlete. So somebody can just see the upside, and they like his coverage skills, and they like his athletic ability, and then take him there. But it is a risky one the first round. I think that would surprise some people there. And then DJ Turner from Michigan, fast, good in man, good in zone, plays bigger than his size. For those reasons, he can go in the first round, but a little smaller in length compared to some of the other guys, and there's a lot of other good corners that are targeted in the first round, so a guy like this isn't being talked about up there, but I could definitely see him going late one, and again, it would surprise a lot of people there. Emmanuel Forbes, who is a big-time playmaker, got his hands on the ball quite a bit, but he is super, super thin, 166 pounds. That is ridiculously light for an NFL corner, so a lot of teams probably just wouldn't take him in the first because of that. He's a big-time playmaker, got good experience, got some length, so maybe he can sneak in the round one, but I think people would be very surprised by that just based on his build and the other solid corners that are out there. So now it's going to get even more fun. 2 more tiers left. Round one picks that would surprise about everyone, pretty much everyone here, but I could also see, we're trying to identify, because again, if I would have mocked Cole Strange to the Patriots in the end of the first round last year, everybody would have laughed at me. I would have got, the Patriots fans would have came after me. That's for sure. But so those things happen. So we're trying to identify these guys that I could actually see. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to see Strange last year, honestly. And we got one more tier after this. But Cedric Tillman, the Tennessee receiver, another Tennessee guy we're talking about, just not getting any first round talk. Was somewhat quiet this year due to an injury, trying to play on it, then having surgery, then coming back and playing on it. So a lot of other good receivers too. So people talk about those receivers over him. But to me, he is your X receiver, your big body contested catch receiver. A little underrated with getting separation as well. A little underrated with his athleticism as well. So a team just wants that X receiver, like these types of receivers. If it was like 5-10 years ago, this guy's going top 10 probably. And then you look back at his 2021 season, he was damn dominant, like really, really dominant. So I could see a team late one that just wanting a big body contested catch X receiver and just grabbing him. Could be this year's George Pickens. George Pickens slipped through a little bit because, he wasn't super, super productive either. And then off the field issues, Tillman was very productive 2 years ago. No off the field issues, is coming off the injury though. So if he goes in the first round, people are like, wow, he went, that receiver didn't. But I'd watch out for him. Cody Mauch maybe could be like the Cole Strange. I think Cole Strange was a little more surprising if Mauch went in the first round. He played tackle at North Dakota State, was pretty solid there, struggled in pass protection at times. I think he's going to be a hell of a guard. Could play center as well, but I think he's going to be a hell of a guard. And teams could be like, yeah, we need a guard. Maybe the other two are off the board, or Mauch is way more athletic than the other two. So they view him. They don't want those guys. They want the more athletic guy that they think fits. And again, he has a lot of upside at guard. So, hey, we'll take him at the end of the first round. I can definitely see it, and it would surprise pretty much everybody there. Joe Tippmann's another one. He played center for Wisconsin. If you're going to play him at center, I wouldn't take him I don't like taking centers in the first round. That's just kind of how I always been. But so if you're going to take him as a center in the first round, I wouldn't do it. But he has upside as a guard. He's got length. He's almost got too much length for center, but he's very good center. I'm fine with him there, just not in the first round. But you could take, and again, at guard, I'd probably feel more comfortable in the second as well. But a team could see his upside, because he gets upfield, he can get outside and block in space as well, which he wasn't asked to do a whole lot at Wisconsin. When he did, he looked pretty good. So it kind of tells me he's scheme versatile. And he's position versatile. It just feels like he could be even better of a guard. So a team could absolutely love that, fall in love with the idea of him being versatile and his upside in the NFL and NFL schemes, and they could take him at the end of the first round. I definitely can see it. John Michael Schmitz, which at one small part of the offseason, people were talking about him. Maybe he could sneak in the end of round one. I just don't think that's really there right now. Because he's strictly a center. How early do you take a center? I know Linderbaum went in the first round last year. He's a much better prospect, because Michael Schmitz does have his downsides when you watch him on tape. I actually have a third round grade on him, so this should surprise pretty much everyone. I almost put him in the last tier where it's going to be super shocking. But that's kind of where it is for me because, how early do you take a center? And this isn't, if you do take a center in the first round, better be that perfect prospect. He's definitely not the perfect prospect for the center position. And, these teams, the best centers in football are being taken. They were third-round picks, fourth-round picks. Usually it's just find a guy that can snap the ball and anchor. That's usually what it is. So you usually don't have to use a first-round pick. And for some reason, the guys that have been, had a first-round pick used on them, they end up, are they working out as, not all of them, but are they working out as well as you thought they would have too? So that's another interesting question. So maybe there's a tiny, tiny percent of people out there that think he could go in the first round because he's a solid center. But I think it should shock about everyone. And Keanu Benton, I'm very high on Keanu Benton. I have a first round grade on him, like first, second, late first, early second. Makes sense. I think he's going to be a stud of an NFL defensive tackle. He's just getting going at the defensive tackle spot. Wisconsin stuck him at nose tackle for most of his career. And I think a team could, maybe they'll be a little worried about taking Bruzzy with his durability, his past injuries, a couple of them. And then Kancey's so like scheme specific, such a specific position. Will he be a factor in the run game? Teams might be just more confident with a guy like Benton and his physicality, the type of guy they're looking for. So I could definitely see it just based on what I watch on tape. Maybe other NFL teams see it as well. Maybe they have to have a defensive tackle, so maybe he sneaks in the end part of the first round. Not too many teams down there badly need D tackles though, so that's the thing. Then Derek Hall, who's more likely to be an end of the second round guy, but he's flashy. He's super athletic. He's long. 4'5" guy with elite arm length. I mean, you can just stop talking there. Like that might be enough for teams. I think there's a lot more to some of the other pass rushers' games that will go in the first round. But for those reasons, he might be a guy that a 3-4 team just wants to work with here, has to have. So he could go late one. He's just never being talked about up there. Then Jack Campbell, which there are some people that maybe would put Jack Campbell in a earlier tier because there's some people that really like Jack Campbell. But even the people that like him think he's more of a second-round guy. So it would surprise about everyone. How early do you take a linebacker that really isn't flashy? He's kind of a ideal build type linebacker, kind of a smarter type linebacker. But after I watched the tape, too, I'm a little lower on him than I thought I would be. I think NFL teams kind of will see, but I still think he probably goes second round, even though I will have a third round grade on him. But kind of just gets himself blocked a little bit too much, a little bit late with the reacting. So I think NFL teams will see that. So I almost wanted to put him in the last tier because I'm going to be pretty damn shocked if somebody takes him in the first round. But a lot of you out there might not be as surprised. And Julius Brents, I was like borderline. I could have put in the previous tier that we talked about, with him because he's pretty athletic. He's explosive. He's super, super freaky lengthy and pretty good play at Kansas State there and used to be at Iowa as well, but pretty good in zone coverage. NFL teams looking for that. There's just other corners that are a little more polished, a little better, that stand out a little bit more in man coverage too, because you want to take a guy in the first round at cornerback position. You better be super athletic. You better be long. You better be. I like for them to be able to work in zone and man, maybe be able to press. You don't want to have to teach man. That's the thing. You are looking for NFL. Most NFLs run in zone. You are looking for good guys in zone coverage like Brents. That's why you can go in the first round, and he's long and athletic. But you also don't want to have to coach up man, which Brents I think is upside in man. But sometimes technique could be a little better. Sometimes getting his body and his head around on the wrong side, of the receiver, I suppose. But yeah, I think people are expecting other corners to go up here, but maybe this wouldn't be as shocking as some of the other guys on the list here. Maybe the least shocking one on this list of guys, Tillman down to Brents. But let's go on to the final tier, and this is where we can try to identify the Cole Strange. Like, wow, that guy was supposed to go in the third round. Is he a guy with a lot of upside? Like, was he supposed to go anywhere near the first round? Really not. It's just really surprising. So these are the guys that I think it possibly some percentage of a chance that they could go in the first round, and it would be super shocking. Zach Charbonnet, good running back from UCLA. Maybe a team would like his build, his pass catching ability. Be like, hey, we'll take that guy in the first round because we need a running back, and they'd rather maybe have him over Gibbs because Gibbs is a little undersized. Perhaps good player. It would shock a lot of people. Luke Musgrave from Oregon State's got the height, the length, the athleticism, the downfield production. That's where he stands out. He's really good downfield, like a big play ability as a tight end, and you just love the upside. It's a pure upside guy. It's kind of a boom or bust guy because we didn't get to see a whole lot of reps from him in his career at Oregon State. But I think NFL teams could think, yeah, we can get a lot out of this guy. Let's take him in the first round. It'd be very surprising, but maybe. Matthew Bergeron, he's been getting some hype recently, not about first round, but he's been getting some hype. I might not be as high on him as everyone else. People love his run blocking, which I do as well for a tackle. In terms of pass protection, he could get better. Some people say, and it could be the case, but some people say he's a good run blocker and he struggles a little bit pass protection. Let's move him to guard. But my problem, I think he'll struggle even more pass protection-wise at guard because when he gets beat, he's just driven straight back like the bull rush. So NFL D tackles are going to be powerful, more powerful than edge rushers. Maybe not a huge difference, but then they give some problems. But teams always desperate for offensive linemen. Maybe they like what they see with him. They don't have to coach up the run blocking, so they take him first. I wouldn't agree with that. But Jalen Duncan's another one. This is a guy that you look at him like he's got the build, the power, the length to be a great tackle. He just has not been a great tackle yet. Like he's allowed, the technique's got to change probably, but he's allowed a lot of pressure as well. So that's why, because he consistently allows, pressure rather than playing, where he should play, he's probably going to go in the third round. Maybe somebody takes a shot in the second round, but because, a team might just fall in love like with the idea of him, maybe. Yaya Diaby, who I'm a fan of, the edge rusher from Louisville, which Louisville actually had him playing inside a little bit, over the tackle, inside the tackle, and he showed his power. Like, he was good there. Then he goes to the combine, he shows his freak athleticism. It's like, okay, this guy was probably playing out of position, but he proved that he has power to play inside, but then he just proved that he has the freak athleticism to play outside. A lot of upside there, and a team could kind of just fall in love with that. Like, this freak, of an athlete with experience in a spot where it requires power, and he was good there. We can move him around a bit, scheme versatile. Team might just fall in love with a guy like that. That's one I can see. Like, that's one I could see, and it would shock everyone. Deion Henley, good coverage linebacker, a lot of upside at the position still, up there in age a little bit. I mean, not really, but compared to the other linebackers, he's 23, going to be 24. 23 and a half right now. This is a crazy one maybe. Marte Mapu, who I'm a big fan of. He was listed as safety at Sacramento State, but he actually played the slot, but actually played a bit at linebacker. He really stood out stopping the run or coming up, and making a big time play, getting downhill. But he was pretty good in coverage with the experience in the slot as well. And then at the Senior Bowl, he lit it up in practice. Wasn't talked about enough. I actually had to go back and watch some Senior Bowl practice to find him. And why wasn't he talked about more? He lit it up as a linebacker in Senior Bowl. I know it's practice, but he looked like a natural there. It's a fun guy to watch, and you can do multiple things with him. I think he should be considered, late second in terms of the grade, and then third. It is a risky pick coming from Sacramento State. You're probably switching his position. But what if somebody just falls in love with that? There's a lot to get excited about with him, and just, the linebacker class is kind of weaker when the team just takes him late one. I mean, this is probably the one that would be the most shocking on the list because he's a Sacramento State guy and you're probably switching his position, and he's not a big name there. But there's a lot to get fired up about with his play style, so maybe. Tyreek Stevenson, physical corner, good at coming up and attacking the ball underneath, was a Georgia guy at one point, and they recruit the best of the best, and they just had guys that were better, there, so he goes to Miami and he looks pretty good. Maybe he turns out better than those Georgia guys, so somebody might just go off that, like, hey, we can get out because he's already shown some good things. We can get the most out of him, what was supposed to be getting out of him. And Clark Phillips, who was very productive at Utah, projects as an inside guy, could be very good in the slot, but also can play outside. So teams might just like his play, and they might think it's a safe pick. He's going to be good on the inside. He also can play outside, Darius Rush, who's super athletic and super long from South Carolina. There's some people that actually think there's a possibility, not saying it's going to happen, that's a possibility that Rush actually goes ahead of Cam Smith, the other South Carolina corner. Don't think that's most likely scenario, but because of the projection, the upside there, maybe. Corey Trice, underrated Purdue corner. This would be a little bit more of a surprise than these other corners. Definitely more of a surprise than the other corners. Him and Rush, probably early third round guys, but, could a team fall in love with their play style and, length, athleticism there that they could go. Quan Martin, DB from Illinois. He played in the slot mainly. He's also got some decent reps at free safety, and he was good at both, very good at both. Just a freak of an athlete, too. Somebody can be like, okay, we'll grab him. We can use him at slot and free safety. Some teams and they love his athleticism, his upside, and they'll just take a shot at him late one. That's another one I could actually see. And Antonio Johnson, who's more of a slot guy, could play safety as well from A&M. at one point, early stage, he was talked about up here, but now just not talked about at all. You know, they're starting to think there's maybe better, safeties. They're not really. Are they saying Quan Martin could be a free safety projected at the next level? But a lot of these guys are slot guys. And the Jordan Battle, maybe a year ago from today, we were probably talking about Jordan Battle being in this draft, looking forward a year later now as him as a first round safety. And now we're just not talking about. We're not even talking about him in the second round. He's pretty solid. Has good solid tape from the past as well. From a good team over there in Alabama. So just maybe. So out of this list here, I think this would surprise some people big time. It'd be pretty much Cole Strange level. I mean, some of these maybe not as surprising as Cole Strange. Some of them would be. But guys I really could see, again, I'm not predicting any of these to happen. We're trying to identify what could be shocking. But Diaby is one. Diaby I really could see. Quan Martin, I think those two are probably the ones that stand out, where it would be super shocking, but I really could see it in a way. Not that I think they're first round guys, but Diaby with his experience, versatility, athleticism, explosiveness, and Quan Martin with his versatility, explosiveness, athleticism, upside. Maybe a team does it, and I'm thinking, maybe a guy from this list right here goes in the first round, like that Cole Strange type of guy. Very possible. I definitely think guys from the other list, the other tiers, will go, and it's still going to surprise people. But this was a lot of fun, just trying to think of who can, and maybe a guy goes that I didn't list. I listed quite a few players. I didn't want to list. I listed quite a few, but I didn't want to list. You can sit here and just list off a million guys, but there's guys that maybe are better prospects than these guys listed. That I don't have here, but I just don't see it. I can kind of see some of these guys, but maybe there's a guy, again, not on this list at all that goes in the first round. Like, I don't know if I would have put Cole. I wonder if I did this exercise, this video last year, would I have put Cole Strange on the, I don't think I would have. I don't think I would have put him on this list. So that's even more, like, do we dig even deeper? That's even more shocking. So in this draft, and I keep hearing it and I keep thinking it as well. I talked about it like a month ago. I think it's going to be a surprising draft. I think you got maybe a little bit less of elite players or like top tier prospects. There's good ones, but then we usually do. Then after that, it's a load of guys that feel like they're all about the same, in terms of grades. So I think, around the top 10 range, some teams will probably draft guys that are really like mid to late first round grades. That's just based on how this draft is. And then they'll be taking, the late first round. I think it'll be like late first round guys will go late first. And then I think late first round guys will go in the second, maybe even the middle of the second. And then late second, maybe some of those guys, but it's early second round guys. And then when you get to the third range. So all these guys are kind of in the same boat, and it's kind of that same range where the late first, early third range is pretty damn good. In my opinion, because there's a lot of, I guess it's somewhat deeper in that range, but a lot of boomer bust guys, a lot of guys who are switching positions with them a lot, so it's a little risky. Some guys up there in age compared to the rest. So it's an interesting draft where interesting things always happen. So they definitely will happen now. So I'm excited. Less than a week away, and then we have content like this rolling out like crazy. I definitely want to do more fit videos. I do videos that I do every year, like my guys, my big board. I got to finish up the prospect rankings here with a DB. Still finishing up the film, but more videos like that. So head over to our channel, check out those videos. You won't be disappointed. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Stay tuned for more videos and for our live stream. Very important. Follow our Twitter. Links pinned in the comments for that. Anything else? It's gonna do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.